For all your hemp wellness needs, information, products, parties, and merch, visit thebudplug.com.
It's Mike Ross, also known as Mike on the Mic. He's getting ready for his upcoming 2022 comedy run. He'll be kicking it off at Benny Brand's Dress Factory Comedy Club. Caroline's on Broadway. Punchline Philly. You don't want to miss him take the stage at the DC Improv. Then he'll be coming to the Atlanta Improv and at Chocolate Sunday's Comedy Show in Los Angeles, California.
It's Mike on the Mic. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Our unfortunate loss of Takeoff from the Migos, who we lost on Halloween evening out in Houston, Texas. And a lot of people, obviously, when we lose another hip hop artist, they go to black on black violence, which needs to be discussed. But then they also bring in and slide right into their gun control. And this is why guns need to be off the street. And me personally, I thought that it needed to be the absolute opposite. We need to be teaching gun safety and learning about gun ethics and learning about not just having any old fool punk motherfucker with a gun having the ability to take anybody's life. But that was just my 1-2. Right. What do you think about the unfortunate situation of passing of our man Takeoff from the Migos and just how it hit the hip hop community yet again?
So it's several things to that. One, there's a bunch of questionable, there's a few things. When Meg Thee Stallion, it was reported that she was shot in the foot, or that Tory Lanez shot her. I had a bunch of questions. My questions were not to be rude to Megan Thee Stallion. My questions were not to be, an easy way out if Tory Lanez may have did it. It was just a question. It was to ask questions. It was something doesn't feel right. There's a lot of bones, in a foot, and the question about somebody being shot and within a few weeks to a month performing at the VMAs was a question to me. In this situation, and again, in that. It's not a diss to Tory Lanez. It's not a diss to Meg Thee Stallion or anybody like that. It's my highest alignment is to the truth. And if something doesn't look right, I'm going to ask a question. Similarly, in this Takeoff situation, there's video footage of Takeoff and Quavo actually trying to de-escalate the situation. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think we make this mistake of before we have fuller context and or more evidence and facts, we tend to jump straight to, they was at a dice game. And it was, the people that I spoke to in Houston and other people have corroborated the story. People that I know that are from Philly that live in Houston now. It's like, bro, that ain't have nothing to do with that dice game.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? Some people are saying it came from an argument or a conversation that happened earlier in the Fifth Ward. A lot of people are looking at Jay Prince. There's people that say Jay Prince, if you're around him, he's the only person that you got to get patted down to even be around him. My point in saying that is all of this is speculative if you wasn't there. Right. And if you wasn't there for when the shots rang out, you might have been there for that, but you wasn't there for maybe what may have happened or transpired earlier. Context is so key, man. Again, I every a year or so, somebody brings up my false rape accusation like it's new news, and it's not, right? But if you don't have the context of what that paperwork looks like, you could, without the right context, it could just look wild, And so because I'm someone that has been falsely accused of a thing, and I see how people that even know that try to utilize the fact of you being accused and charged of something without the context, I have that understanding that people do that. I try not to do that. What you don't like as a follower, you shouldn't do as a leader.
Right.
So with this situation with, Offset having his life taken.
Takeoff.
Takeoff having his life taken, and Offset and Quavo as members of a group that have been together for, they've been rapping for damn near 14 years at this point.
Right.
We got to give a little bit of grace to let the time and the context and the facts settle, and then context goes on to that. But what I will say is something does not look right. Just like I made that reference of Meg Thee Stallion, something doesn't look right. Somebody getting shot in the head and the stomach, if we're on the same team and it's friendly fire, usually if we squad, we on this side. And if we're engaging somebody else, they on that side. How does this man get shot in his head and the stomach from friendly fire? It does not make sense to me. The positioning, the audio, the calm nature of the conversation before the shots rang out, that does not make sense to me. usually as a thing escalates, the volume elevates, you know. And again, this is me on the outside looking in. I wasn't there. I'm correlating that to my lived experience and looking at what happens in a shooting.
Right.
Because we do scenario training. We take scenario training. I train sometimes with guys that are Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Army Rangers. These are my friends. And I pull off of some of their lived experiences as well. If we're all over, and again, anything can happen, and I was not there, but if we're all over here and the story is guys were arguing and he got shot from friendly fire from his guy that was Quavo was over there and mouthing off. First of all, the audio does not reflect that.
Nope, not at all.
You know what I'm saying? So that's where people just running with it. And if the audio doesn't reflect that, and if both of those gentlemen, you know, Takeoff is generally known for being very reserved. So now we got someone that supposedly jumps all the way out of character, and he's hit up. You know, you got, Quavo was arguing. That does not reflect the audio. He was literally, you know, trying to diffuse the situation. The conversation should lean into more context than what actually caused this man's life to be gone. What made the members of this group that had their own issues that they was going through, obviously, you know, these guys are going to question everything now. These guys are going to, you know, Takeoff would question, damn, if I was there, maybe if we wouldn't have been going through what we was going through, maybe we could have moved it. This is going to be with them for the rest of their life. So before we're in a space where we're jumping the gun and then blaming the artist that the audio and the video does not corroborate the story, in my view. And then we saying, it's their fault because they was at a dice game and we missing the context. You might not even have heard from nobody in Houston yet. And even the people that I've talked to in Houston, if they wasn't there and they didn't have everything on camera, damn near like a stenographer with an exact report of exactly what went down, I even got to take that with a grain of salt. So I just want our people to really, really give grace to, you know, the situation and allow these men and their families and their loved ones a moment to reflect on his death. That's the first thing that I would say to it.
Right.
Then after that, I say, the reality is a man was murdered, a young man, a multimillionaire that's used his skill set, whether you like it or don't, you know, whether you don't like the music or you do, they use their skill set to empower the people that's in their circle to make some bread. And they ain't had to rob nobody to do it, you know? And whoever pulled that trigger for whatever reason, we got to come into the conversation about conflict resolution. We got to come into the conversation about this is not the way. We got to come into the conversation that this is not hip hop culture. We keep ascribing death to hip hop because some guys are writing stories, whether they live them or not. We have to understand that that's a part of reality rap or street journalism. But at the same time, even if those artists have an accountability because they're writing and they're in certain environments and so forth and so on, we got to hold everybody accountable. We got to hold the consumer accountable. We got to hold the executive accountable. We got to say, yo, if Drake and J. Cole are the biggest selling artists and Kendrick Lamar in sales, this myth that, the labels are only pushing what the people want. If J. Cole and Kendrick, to my knowledge, are some of the very few artists that have went platinum over the last few years with no features, and all of these other guys that's getting all this money behind them, these guys are not selling platinum. The argument that, the executives is only giving the people what they want, that's false. That's false. So we got to look at it from that perspective. We have to look at the accountability, and all of this is happening all damn near at a very strange and synchronized time.
Very.
You know, as we're saying this, Kanye just was like, yo, these executives is paying us to kill each other. Everybody want to package him as he's insane. This is no different than what C. Dolores Tucker was trying to argue with us in our youth, and we may have not really understood. Then we got to start looking into, what actually fully was C. Dolores Tucker really just trying to stop our freedom of speech? Or as our elder at that point, was she sharing some wisdom with us that we should have took a little bit more heed to? You know, when this ties in at a time where we have to ask, when Charlemagne sits down, like we said before, with Leor Cohen, and he openly says, hell yeah, I'm exploiting these artists for death. I got people to feed.
Yep.
So all of this is happening at the same time. And I would encourage our people to not just pick one party to blame. It definitely was not the Migos' fault at that party. Based on the limited information that I see from that moment, it could have been something else that they was a part of and wasn't. Who knows? I wasn't there. Well, I don't know. I don't know what happened in the Fifth Ward. I wasn't there. But in that moment, based on that information that I see, I definitely am not blaming them. I'm not.
Right.
If they were, appearing to be the voices of reason, no. What I am going to step back from the elephant and look at is who's benefited from this perversion of hip hop culture being infused into hip hop culture, masquerading as Black culture. Because that's what's happening. Hip hop culture had all of the elements of a culture: MCing, DJing, breakdancing, graffiti. That's writing. That's hieroglyphs. That's speaking. That's the drum, the djembe. This is all Black culture. But what's happened is we've allowed certain executives to infuse more negativity. Because we're not stepping back and looking at the actual, the actual situation that's happening in real time, we're not going, and even back before in real time, we're not going, damn, they took one part of it, they bastardized it, they tricked us into thinking that this is exactly what the reality is, and they took out all of the other cultural elements. So that part of it that's being bastardized is not culture. It's now you got to step back again and go, what other financial interests do these people that are executives and owners of these companies, what other interests financially, socially, that goes into their financial benefit, what other financial interests do they have? Mm-hmm. So let's take a record label. Let's take Def Jam, Universal. Universal is owned by Vivendi. Vivendi is a French company. Vivendi owns like Seagram's. Seagram's owns a lot of wine and spirits stores. So of course we want you to buy liquor because we have a financial interest in the liquor that we sell. Of course we're going to have the companies ship that liquor over to the artist and make sure that they bottles is there. It's amazing when you step back and really look at it. So I don't think that the general public is asking these questions, and we're focusing more too much on a little too much. I'm not attempting to absolve any group or individuals from the responsibility that they play.
Right.
But we step back and we seem to only look at the artist. We seem to step back and we say, oh, Kyrie Irving shouldn't have tweeted about this movie, but we ain't looked at Jeff Bezos. Never mind the fact that when Kyrie first tweeted about it, you could rent the joint for $3.99. Now it's $11.99 to rent. You could buy the joint for $20. Now it's $50 to buy it. We ain't really looking at that. So we got this self-hate of or conditioned response of who we should be looking at for as a problem. Now, again, this is not me saying, if a dude promotes death. First of all, the Migos music generally isn't about death. So I don't even know how we associating that with these guys.
Right.
We have to look at a bigger unseen hand that is manipulating these situations. And if you're not doing that, you only getting a small slither of the context. And again, then we got to look at ourselves as the consumer.